Have you ever watched a primitive species realize they are about to go extinct? The way their faces contort, the desperate pleas, the futile resistance? It's quite the entertainment package. Admiral Zurax announced to his bridge crew, his 3 sets of mandibles clicking with amusement. The massive view screen displayed the blue-green planet below. Earth, such a simple name for such a simple world. Pull up the human leadership bunker feed, Zurax commanded, smoothing down his ceremonial armor. Today marked his 500th conquest, and he had chosen this backwater world for the milestone simply because their defiance amused him. Lieutenant Prax tapped on her console, her forearms working in perfect synchronization. Feed established. Admiral, the humans are arguing. Naturally, put it on the main screen. Let's all enjoy the show. The bridge crew of the Devastator, flagship of the QX-30 Armada, turned their attention to the display. Inside an underground facility, 24 humans in formal attire shouted over one another, their pink faces turned red with anger. Some pounded tables, others pointed accusatory fingers. "Audio, please," Zurax requested, settling back in his command chair. "And someone bring me those fermented sugar treats the scouts found in Paris." The sound of panicked human voices filled the bridge. "They have neutralized every missile we have launched. The orbital defense grid is completely offline. 3 billion casualties and counting. We need to surrender before they eliminate us completely." Zurax popped a macaron into his feeding orifice. These are actually quite good. Shame about the species. They had potential in the culinary arts at least." His second-in-command, Commander Nix, approached with a data tablet. "Sir, our analysis of their communication patterns suggests they are planning something. Despite appearances, these arguments might be deliberate." "Oh, Nix, always the cautious one." Zurax waved a dismissive limb. What could they possibly do? Their most advanced weapons are barely past fission technology. We disabled their nuclear capabilities in the first strike. These creatures discovered space travel less than a century ago. With respect, Admiral, I have studied their history. They are unusually adaptive. All species adapt. It's the ones that adapt quickly that provide the best sport. Zurax leaned forward, genuinely curious. "What do your instincts tell you, Nix? You have always had good hunches." Nix's inner eyelids flickered, a sign of discomfort among their species. "My instincts tell me we should have sterilized this planet from orbit rather than drawing out the conquest. But where's the glory in that?" Zurax turned back to the screen. "Look at them, scrambling like Nexus beetles when a rock overturns. Their panic sustains me." On the display, a new human had taken center stage. Unlike the others in their formal blue and black coverings, this one wore a simple gray uniform adorned with small metal symbols. The room quieted as he spoke. "Ladies and gentlemen, I understand your fear. The QX-30 have destroyed our major cities. Our conventional military is in ruins, but Operation Prometheus is ready." Zurax tilted his head. "Operation what?" "Prax, run that name through our intelligence database." Prax's fingers danced across her console. "No matches, Admiral. It could be a last-minute designation." The gray-uniformed human continued. "We knew this day might come. For 50 years, since the Roswell incident, we have been preparing. Today, we either become the first species to defeat the QX-30, or we ensure they remember humanity for millennia to come." Zurax let out a hissing laugh. "Oh, this is rich. They think they can defeat us. With what? Pointy sticks?" "Admiral," Nix cautioned, "perhaps we should—" "Relax, Nix. Let me enjoy this." Zurax turned to his tactical officer. "Drell, what's the status of their remaining military assets?" The tactical officer consulted his screens. "Scattered and disorganized. Admiral, we are tracking approximately 38 submarines in their oceans. Some aircraft and ground forces in disarray. Nothing that poses a threat to our ships. See, Nikis? Nothing to worry about." Zurax grabbed another macaron. "Although I am curious about this. Prometheus. Prax, what does that name mean in their mythology?" "Processing," Prax replied. "According to human mythology, Prometheus was a deity who stole fire from the gods and gave it to humans." "Fire?" Zurax laughed. "How appropriate. They think they can burn us, perhaps?" The human in gray was speaking again. "Project directors, final authorization required." The screen split to show 6 humans at different locations, each seated before similar control panels. Atlantic Station, authorized. Pacific Station, authorized. Arctic Station, authorized. Indian Ocean Station, authorized. Mediterranean Station, authorized. Southern Ocean Station, authorized. The gray uniformed human nodded solemnly. Initiate firing sequence. May God have mercy on us all because we are about to spit in the devil's eye. A ripple of unease passed through the bridge crew. Zorax felt it but refused to acknowledge it. Drell! Full scan of the planet. What are they activating? Drell worked frantically at his console. Nothing on standard frequencies, Admiral. No energy spikes, no launch signatures, no weight. His voice faltered. Deep scan detecting unusual activity in their ocean floors. 6 locations corresponding to the stations they just mentioned. Nix moved quickly to the tactical station. Show me. The view screen changed to display a thermal map of Earth's oceans. 6 bright spots pulsed in different locations. What am I looking at? Zorax demanded, no longer amused. Thermal vents, sir, Drell explained, natural features of their ocean floors, except they are all activating simultaneously and the energy readings are off the charts. Impossible, Zorax stood now, his earlier mirth evaporating. Their technology can't. A proximity alert blared through the bridge. Multiple objects approaching. Drake shouted, rising from the oceans at incredible speed. Defensive systems, Zorax commanded. Prax, get me visual. The screen shifted to show the ocean's surface. The water bulged upward as if pushed from below, then exploded into steam as 6 massive objects burst through. They weren't missiles, as Zorax had expected. They were pillars. Enormous metal cylinders, their surfaces glowing white-hot. What in the void are those? Zorax whispered. Nix's analysis came quickly. Some kind of thermal lances, Admiral. They are channeling the planet's core heat. The temperature readings are... Sir, they are approaching the heat of a small star. That's not possible with their technology, Zorax insisted, though doubt crept into his voice. On the view screen, the 6 pillars continued their ascent, punching through the atmosphere, trailing superheated plasma. They weren't aimed at the Devastator. Zorax realized with growing horror. They were positioning themselves in a formation. Admiral, Nix said quietly, they are creating a geometric pattern in orbit. A perfect hexagon. The gray uniformed human's voice came through again. All Prometheus pillars deployed. Initiating convergence in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Arcs of blinding energy leapt between the pillars, forming a hexagonal web of pure energy. The space within the hexagon began to distort, rippling like water. Admiral, Prax cried. Gravitational anomaly detected. It's opening. Evacuation order. Zorax shouted. All ships break orbit immediately. But it was too late. The space inside the hexagon tore open, revealing a swirling vortex of light and energy. Not a weapon, a doorway. And through that doorway came ships. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Vessels of clearly human design, but unlike anything Zorax had seen on Earth, they were sleek, advanced, and bristling with weapons that made his blood run cold. This can't be, he whispered. They are a primitive species. They don't have this technology. The human in gray smiled up at the camera, as if he knew Zorax was watching. You thought you were monitoring us? We have been monitoring you for decades. Every invasion, every conquest. Learning, preparing. Nix grabbed Zorax's arm. Sir, we need to retreat, now. Zorax couldn't move, transfixed by the impossibility before him. The human continued, You see, Admiral Zorax, we discovered something 50 years ago. Not just your crashed scout ship at Roswell. We found one of your victims, a survivor from the Arcturian system. They taught us about the quantum gateway technology you thought only your species possessed. Dread washed over Zorax. How do they know my name? And now, the human said, I'd like to introduce you to humanity's last line of defense, or should I say humanity's first wave of retribution. The lead ship emerging from the portal was massive, dwarfing even the Devastator. Its hull bore markings in human script along with symbols Zorax recognized from a dozen conquered worlds. An alliance. Admiral Zorax of the Kthari Armada, the human declared, Meet Admiral Jake Shepard of the Terran Galactic Alliance. While you have been busy conquering worlds in this arm of the galaxy, we have been busy making friends in another. The bridge of the Devastator fell silent. On the view screen, the enormous human ship opened fire. "The sky is about to burn," the gray-uniformed human said softly, "and this time you are the one going extinct." Admiral Jake Shepard stood on the bridge of the TGA Vengeance, watching as the QX-30 flagship desperately attempted to raise shields against their first salvo. "Too late, you overgrown cockroach," he muttered, as prismatic energy beams sliced through the alien vessel's hull. His second-in-command, Tora Patel, approached with a tactical update. "Sir, the gateway is stable. All Alliance ships have transited. The QX-30 fleet is attempting to regroup." "Let them try," Jake said, his weathered face set in grim determination. 50 years I have waited for this moment. 50 years since they took everything from me." Tora knew better than to respond. Everyone knew Jake's story, how as a young officer he'd witnessed the QX-30 test invasion that the world governments had covered up. The one that had claimed his family and hometown dismissed as a natural disaster. "Comms," Jake called to his communications officer. "Patch me through to General Vega." The main screen shifted to show the underground bunker on Earth, where the gray-uniformed man waited. "General," Jake nodded. "The cavalry has arrived." General Vega allowed himself a small smile. "About damn time, Admiral." The locals were getting restless. "Gateway status? Stable on our end. Your Arcturian engineers know their stuff." Jake turned to his tactical display. "The QX-30 are regrouping. They have us outnumbered, but not outgunned," Tora reminded him. "And they have never faced their own technology before." Jake studied the enemy formation. The Devastator had taken heavy damage from their opening salvo but remained operational. Around it, over 300 QX-30 warships moved to defensive positions. "Deploy the fleet in Maneuver Theta," Jake ordered. "Target their command and control systems first." As his orders transmitted across the Alliance fleet, Jake took a moment to appreciate the irony. The QX-30 had conquered 1,000 worlds, absorbing technology and resources. They'd become complacent, relying on their reputation and overwhelming force. They never expected their victims to unite. They never imagined humans would be the ones to bring that union together. "Admiral," his tactical officer called out, "QX-30 vessels are powering weapons. They are targeting Earth." Jake's blood ran cold. "Intercept course. All ships with shield projection capability cover the planet." "Sir," Tora objected, "that will leave our flanks exposed." "I didn't come all this way to watch Earth burn, Commander." Jake's voice was steel. "Execute the order." The Alliance fleet broke formation, smaller vessels moving to intercept the QX-30 attack ships, while the larger cruisers positioned themselves between the enemy and Earth. On the Devastator, Admiral Zorax had recovered from his shock. "Target their homeworld. If we are going down, we will take their cradle of civilization with us." Drull, still loyal despite his fear, obeyed. Targeting planetary surface. Kinetic bombardment systems online. Nix stepped forward. "Admiral, this is suicide. We should retreat, regroup with the main fleet." "And tell them what?" Zorax snarled. "That humans of all species outmaneuvered us? I'd rather die here." He turned to his weapons officer. "Fire everything we have." Across the QX-30 fleet, mass drivers powered up, preparing to launch city-killing projectiles at Earth's surface. Aboard the Vengeance, Jake watched the enemy preparations with cold calculation. "They are going for a spite strike. Hurrah! Activate the umbrella." Tora nodded and relayed the command. Throughout the Alliance fleet, specialized vessels moved into position, generating an overlapping energy field between Earth and the QX-30 ships. "Shield network at 90%, Tora reported. "It won't stop everything, but it will mitigate the damage." "General Vega," Jake called to the screen, "activate planetary defenses. This is going to get messy." On Earth, Vega turned to his staff. "Activate the ground-based repulsors. Evacuate all remaining surface personnel to deep shelters." The QX-30 weapons fired, launching hundreds of hypersonic projectiles toward Earth. The Alliance shield network flared brilliant blue as it intercepted the first wave. Most were vaporized instantly, but some broke through, streaking toward the planet. From the surface, enormous energy beams lanced upward, targeting the incoming projectiles. Earth's last-ditch defenses, revealed after remaining hidden throughout the initial invasion. "Sir," Tor reported, "planetary defenses are holding, but the shield network is failing. We are down to 60% coverage." Jake made a quick decision. Break off half the interceptor group. Target the Devastator directly. If we take out Zurax, we might be able to force a surrender. "The Arcturian contingent is moving to comply," Tura confirmed. "They have a special motivation to reach Zurax." Indeed, the sleek crystalline ships of the Arcturian survivors were already accelerating toward the QX-30 flagship, their weapons charging. Aboard the Devastator, alarms blared as the tactical systems registered the incoming threat. "Admiral," Drell shouted over the noise. "Multiple hostiles on intercept course. Arcturian signatures." "Arcturians?" Zarax's mandibles clicked in disbelief. "We exterminated them a century ago." "Evidently not all of them," Nix observed dryly, "and they have upgraded their technology." "Defensive formation," Zorax commanded. "All ships protect the flagship." But the QX-30 fleet was in disarray, caught between their planetary bombardment and defending against the Alliance's coordinated assault. Several escort vessels moved to intercept the Arcturian attack group, but they were too slow, too predictable. The Arcturian ships, piloted by the descendants of those who had escaped Zorax's genocide, darted through the defensive screen with practiced precision. Their weapons, a perfect fusion of their crystalline technology and human innovation, cut through QX-30 armor like it was paper. On the Vengeance's bridge, Jake watched with grim satisfaction. Status on the bombardment: Earth defenses holding at 80% effectiveness, Tora reported. Casualties reported in Southeast Asia and Eastern Europe, but significantly lower than projected. Jake nodded, then turned to his weapons officer. "Target the Devastator's propulsion systems. I want that ship crippled, not destroyed. Zirax doesn't get an easy death today." "Aye, sir," the weapons officer acknowledged. Targeting solution acquired. Firing main batteries. The Vengeance's primary weapons discharged, sending pulses of concentrated energy toward the QX-30 flagship. The beams struck with surgical precision, severing the massive engines from the main hull. Aboard the Devastator, the impact threw Zurax from his command chair. Emergency systems blared as gravity fluctuated. "Status," he demanded, pulling himself up. "Propulsion offline," Prax reported, two of her forearms working to stabilize her console while the others operated the controls. "Hull breaches on decks 30 through 45. Weapons at 30% capacity." Zorax looked around his bridge, at the crew that had followed him through hundreds of conquests. Fear was an alien sensation to him, but he recognized it now, creeping up his spine. "Nix," he said quietly to his second-in-command, "initiate self-destruct protocols." Nix stared at him. "Admiral, I will not be captured by humans and their allies." He spat the last word. "If we are going down, we will take as many of them with us as possible." Nix hesitated, then moved toward the emergency console. But before he could reach it, the bridge rocked with another impact. The lights flickered, and when they stabilized, the view screen showed a new image. A boarding party had materialized directly on the bridge, Arcturians in battle armor, their crystalline weapons trained on the QX-30 crew, and among them humans in sleek combat suits. "Admiral Zorax," the lead human said, removing her helmet to reveal sharp features and determined eyes. "I'm Captain Leela Takashi of the Terran Galactic Alliance. By the authority granted to me by the Combined Council of Survivors, you are under arrest for crimes against sentient life." Zorax's mandibles clicked in fury. "You dare board my vessel? You primitive!" His words cut off as an Arcturian officer stepped forward, the crystalline structures of their face catching the emergency lights. "Remember me, Zorax. I was a child when you burned our homeworld. My parents saved me by putting me on the last escape pod." The Arcturian's voice was melodic but edged with centuries of pain. "I made sure we found Earth before you did." Understanding dawned on Zorax. You have been guiding them, teaching them." "We have been preparing them," the Arcturian corrected. "Humans learn quickly, and they have something your species never understood." "And what's that?" Zorax sneered. Captain Takashi answered. "Empathy. The ability to recognize suffering in others and be moved to action by it." She nodded to her team. "Secure the bridge. Prepare the Admiral for transport to the Vengeance." As the Alliance soldiers moved to restrain him, Zorax made one desperate lunge for his personal weapon. He never reached it, A precise shot from Takashi's sidearm left him gasping on the deck, clutching his wounded limb. "That was stupid," she observed coolly. "But expected." On the Vengeance, Jake received the update from Takashi's team. "Excellent work, Captain. Bring our guest home." The battle continued around them, but with the Devastator captured and Zorax in custody, the QX-30 fleet's coordination collapsed. Individual ship commanders began making independent decisions. Some fought on with increasing desperation, others attempted to flee. "Sir," Tora reported, "we are detecting quantum surge signatures. The remaining QX-30 ships are preparing to jump." Jake nodded. "Let them go, they will carry the message back to their empire." Today the hunters became the hunted. As the Alliance fleet secured Earth orbit, the truth of what had happened began to sink in for both sides. Humanity had not been as primitive or as helpless as the QX-30 believed. Behind the facade of a developing civilization, they had been building, planning, and forging alliances with other survivors of QX-30 aggression. In the secure conference room of the Vengeance, Jake Shepard faced the captured Admiral Zorax across a table. The QX-30 commander's mandibles were restrained, his limbs secured to the chair. "You are probably wondering how we did it," Jake said, pouring himself a glass of water. "How a primitive species managed to outmaneuver the mighty QX-30." Zorax remained silent, his compound eyes unreadable. "I will tell you anyway," Jake continued. 50 years ago, one of your scout ships crashed in Roswell. We recovered technology, yes, but more importantly, we recovered data, star charts, invasion records, communication protocols." He took a sip of water. "And then we had a visitor, an Arcturian scientist, barely alive, who had tracked your scout ship hoping to prevent another genocide." Jake set down his glass. "We nursed them back to health. They taught us about quantum gateway technology, and they told us where to find other survivors of your conquests." "Impossible," Zorax finally spoke. "The distances are vast," Jake agreed. "It took us decades to reach the nearest survivors, more decades to build our alliance, to combine our technologies, to prepare." He leaned forward. "While you were conquering worlds in this spiral arm, we were building a resistance in another, just waiting for you to find Earth." "A trap," Zorax realized. "You used your own planet as bait. We used my planet as justice." Jake's eyes hardened. "The gateway we opened today? It's just the first. There are others, connecting all the worlds you thought you'd conquered or destroyed, and now they are all coming for you, Admiral. The QX-30 Empire's days of conquest are over." Outside the conference room, Earth began the process of rebuilding. The human leaders emerged from their bunkers to face a new reality. Their planet was now officially part of a galactic alliance, and the universe was both more dangerous and more wondrous than most had imagined. General Vega stood at the United Nations headquarters in what remained of New York, addressing representatives from every surviving nation. "Today marks the end of humanity's isolation," he announced, "and the beginning of our role in a much larger community. We have suffered greatly, but we have endured. Now we must help bring justice to countless other worlds that have suffered under QX-30 oppression." In orbit, the Alliance fleet maintained its protective formation as Earth's hidden defenses were fully revealed: orbital platforms, lunar bases, and the 6 quantum gateway generators that had changed the course of the war in a single moment. Aboard the Vengeance, Jake Shepard looked down at the blue-green planet of his birth. Tora Patel joined him at the viewport. "Was it worth it?" she asked quietly. "The secrecy, the decades of preparation while they thought we were helpless?" Jake considered the question. "Ask the survivors in the cities they bombed. Ask the families who lost loved ones. But also ask the billions who will now live because we stopped the QX-30 here. And what happens now? To Earth?" "Now," Jake said, watching as Alliance medical ships descended to assist with recovery efforts, "we rebuild, we mourn, and we prepare for what comes next." "The QX-30 Empire won't take this lying down," Tora observed. "No," Jake agreed. "They won't. That's why we are not stopping with Earth." He turned to face his second-in-command. "The Gateway network is expanding, the Alliance is growing. For the first time in a millennium, the Q630 are on the defensive." He looked back at Earth, at the devastation and the resilience. They laughed at what they thought was humanity's last stand. Now the sky has burned, and a new fire is spreading across the stars. As night fell across the battle-scarred planet, survivors looked up to see not just stars but the lights of Alliance ships, proof that humanity was no longer alone, and that sometimes the greatest weapon against tyranny is patience, planning, and unexpected alliances. The war had only just begun. High Counselor Vrex of the QX-3 Imperial Command slammed his armored fist against the obsidian table, causing several junior officers to flinch back. The strategic hologram hovering above the table flickered momentarily. Impossible, he hissed through clenched mandibles. Absolutely impossible. Before him, the tactical display showed the unthinkable, the Devastator, flagship of the most successful conquest fleet in QX-3 history, captured Admiral Zorax, hero of 1,000 successful planetary cleansings, in enemy hands, and most incomprehensible of all, Earth, a primitive backwater world, now serving as the focal point of a multi-species alliance that had somehow remained hidden from Imperial intelligence for decades. Play the message again, Vrix demanded, his secondary eyes narrowing to slits. The communications officer tapped nervously at her console. Yes, High Counselor. The hologram shifted, and the image of a human appeared. Not cowering, not pleading for mercy as humans should be, but standing tall in what was unmistakably the command center of the Devastator itself. To the QX-3 Imperial Command, the human began, his tone infuriatingly calm. My name is Admiral Jake Shepard of the Terran Galactic Alliance. Your invasion force has been defeated. Your flagship has been captured. Admiral Zorax awaits trial for crimes against sentient life. The human paused, letting the information sink in. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. For centuries, you have preyed upon worlds you deemed inferior. You have exterminated entire species for sport. You have built an empire on the bones of civilizations that might have become your equals or perhaps your betters. Vrex's mandibles clicked rapidly in agitation. The audacity of this creature. That ends today, the human continued. The survivors of your conquests have united. We have combined our technologies, our strategies, and our resolve. Earth was not your next victim, it was your first defeat. The image panned out to show other species standing alongside the human Arcturians, Palaran, even a Zithrak. Species the QX-3 had presumed extinct or subjugated generations ago. You have 42 planetary rotations to withdraw your forces from the following systems. A list of coordinates scrolled beside the human's image. Any QX-3 military presence remaining after that time will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. He threatens us? War Minister Kraz sputtered. A human? The Admiral's expression hardened. And one more thing. The next QX-3 ship that approaches Earth will be considered an act of war against the entire Alliance. Admiral Shepard, out. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Rex finally spoke, his voice dangerously quiet. Intelligence Director Malax, please explain how we missed the formation of an entire galactic alliance. The Intelligence Director's exoskeleton seemed to pale slightly. High Counselor, our assessments indicate they operated exclusively in the Perseus Arm, beyond our usual expansion routes. They appear to have used quantum gateway technology to transit between systems without conventional warp signatures that we could detect. And how, Brex continued, did primitive humans acquire quantum gateway technology? Technology that we developed. Malax's limbs twitched nervously. Preliminary analysis suggests Arcturian involvement. The gateway signatures match modifications to our base technology that we have observed in Arcturian refugee settlements before we eliminated them. Evidently, Rex said icily, you failed to eliminate all of them. He turned to War Minister Kraz. What forces can we deploy to crush this insurrection? Kraz activated his own tactical display. The 7th and 9th fleets are nearest to the Earth sector. Combined, they represent over 900 warships. More than enough to obliterate this alliance. 900 ships, Rex mused. Against how many enemy vessels? Malax consulted his data. Our scouts counted approximately 200 ships of various configurations emerging from the quantum gateway at Earth. However, the gateway remained active, suggesting they have reinforcements available. 200 against 900, Rex clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. Even with reinforcements, the odds favor us overwhelmingly. Fleet Commander Jix, who had remained silent until now, cleared her throat. High Counselor, With respect, I recommend caution. The Alliance vessels displayed technological capabilities that matched or exceeded our own, and they had intimate knowledge of our tactical protocols. You counsel fear, Commander? Vrex's tone was dangerous. I counsel wisdom, High Counselor, Chix replied evenly. Admiral Zorax commanded our finest fleet with our most advanced vessels. They were defeated in less than one planetary rotation. Before we commit nearly 1,000 ships, perhaps we should analyze exactly how that happened. Rex considered this, his primary eyes narrowing. A reasonable point. What do we know of their weapons systems? Their primary energy weapons appear similar to our phase disruptors, but with significantly greater penetration capabilities, Kraz reported. And their shield technology, it absorbed kinetic bombardment that would have shattered our own defenses. Stolen technology, Rex concluded. Copied and perhaps marginally improved. There's something else, Malax added hesitantly. The human admiral, Shepard. Our databases indicate he was present during our test invasion of Earth 50 solar cycles ago. The Wyoming test. Rex's interest sharpened. That was classified at the highest levels. How would a human connect those events to us? We disguised it as a natural disaster. Unknown. High Counselor, Malax admitted, but it suggests their intelligence-gathering capabilities exceed our estimates. Significantly. Rex rose from his seat, towering over the other council members. I want 3 things. First, a complete tactical analysis of the battle at Earth. Second, a comprehensive intelligence report on this Terran Galactic Alliance, who they are, what worlds they control, and what weaknesses we can exploit. And third, he paused, mandibles clicking softly. I want to know everything about this Admiral Shepard. Everything. In the detention level of the TGA Vengeance, Admiral Zorax stared at the energy barrier that confined him. For 3 days he had been held in this cell, questioned repeatedly about Q-Iscthari fleet deployments, defense systems, and imperial politics. He had revealed nothing. The door to the detention area slid open, and a new figure entered. Not the usual interrogator, but the human admiral himself. Shepard. Comfortable? The human asked, pulling up a chair outside the energy field. Zorax didn't respond, fixing the human with a hateful glare from all 4 of his eyes. I thought you might like to know that your empire has received our message, Shepard continued, unperturbed. They have dispatched scout ships to verify our claims. No doubt they are preparing a massive counterattack as we speak. Then you will all die, Zorax said, breaking his silence. The Empire will send thousands of ships. They will burn your Alliance worlds one by one until nothing remains but ash. Shepard seemed disappointingly unmoved by this threat. It would be true if you were still fighting the wars of the past. But this is a new kind of conflict, Admiral, one you are not prepared for. We have conquered 1,000 worlds, Zorax snarled. We have exterminated or subjugated every species that dared oppose us. What makes you think your pitiful alliance will fare any better? Because we are not fighting to conquer, Shepard replied. We are fighting to survive, and species fighting for survival are infinitely more dangerous than those fighting for glory. Zorax laughed, a harsh clicking sound. Philosophy. From a human? How droll. Not philosophy. History. Shepard leaned forward. Your own history, actually. The Q-Iscthari weren't always conquerors, were you? Before your imperial phase, you were prey. The Mortaxian hunters nearly drove your species to extinction 3 millennia ago. Zorax's mandibles stilled. How did this human know of the dark times? You survived because you were desperate, Shepard continued. Because every Q-Iscthari fought with the knowledge that failure meant extinction. You developed technologies and tactics that the Mortaxians couldn't anticipate, because they underestimated what cornered prey might do. The human stood, pacing slowly before the energy barrier. Now you have become the hunters. You have forgotten what it means to be hunted, but we haven't. Every species in our alliance has stared extinction in the face. We have all been cornered by your empire, and like the ancient Q-Iscthari, we have found strength in that desperation. Touching, Zorax sneered, but sentiment doesn't win wars, numbers do. And the Empire has numbers you cannot imagine. Shepard smiled, an expression Zorax found unsettling. About those numbers, tell me, how many ships do you think we have? Your little display at Earth showed approximately 200 vessels. Impressive for primitives, but a mere fraction of Imperial might. 200 ships that came through a single gateway, Shepard corrected. One gateway, Admiral Zorax. We have 19 active gateways across the Perseus and Carina arms. Would you like to guess how many ships are waiting to come through them? For the first time, Zorax felt a flutter of genuine concern.
You're bluffing.
Am I? Shepard produced a small device and activated it. A holographic display materialized between them, showing tactical maps of multiple star systems. In each one, fleets of ships gathered near massive structures that could only be quantum gateways. While your empire was busy conquering world after world, moving methodically through this spiral arm, we were building alliances and shipyards in regions you'd written off or hadn't reached yet, Shepard explained. Every species that ever feared the QX Starui has contributed to our cause. Technologies, resources, soldiers. Zorax studied the display with growing disbelief. If these images were accurate, 3,742 ships, at last count, Shepard said, answering the unspoken question. With more coming online every day, you see, Admiral, we have been preparing for this war for 50 years. You have been preparing for 3 days. Shepard deactivated the hologram. The Empire has a choice to make. Withdraw from the systems we have listed, or face an alliance that has studied your every weakness, knows your every tactic, and has nothing left to lose. The Empire does not negotiate with inferiors. Zorax spat. Then the Empire will fall, Shepard replied simply. Because we are not inferior, Admiral. We never were. You just couldn't see past your own arrogance to recognize it. As Shepard turned to leave, Zorax called after him. What happens to me? A show trial. Public execution to satisfy your alliance's thirst for vengeance. The human paused at the door. Justice, not vengeance. You will be tried fairly for your crimes against sentient life, and then you will help us understand how to dismantle the Imperial command structure with minimal casualties. I will tell you nothing. You already have, Shepard said. More than you realize. With that, the human was gone, leaving Zorax alone with thoughts more disturbing than any he had experienced in his long career of conquest. High Council Chambers, QX Theory Homeworld. 3 days later. You want us to what? Zorax's voice was deadly quiet. Fleet Commander Jix stood her ground. The intelligence reports are conclusive. High Counselor, the Alliance claims about their fleet strength appear to be accurate. Our scouts have confirmed gateway structures in 17 of the systems they listed, with significant fleet activity around each one. And your recommendation is surrender? War Minister Kraz was practically vibrating with rage. Not surrender, Jix clarified. Strategic redeployment. The systems they have demanded we evacuate are largely frontier worlds with minimal strategic value. By withdrawing from them, we can consolidate our forces along more defensible borders while we assess the full capabilities of this alliance. Vrex's mandibles clicked rapidly in thought, and if this merely emboldens them to demand more, then we will be better prepared to refuse, Jix replied. But rushing 900 ships into a confrontation with an enemy of unknown strength, using technologies we don't fully understand, would be tactically unsound. Intelligence Director Malax stepped forward. There is another consideration, High Counselor. Our analysis of the battle telemetry from Earth reveals something concerning. He activated the central hologram, displaying technical schematics. The Alliance ships demonstrated intimate knowledge of our shield harmonics, weapons targeting systems, and communication protocols. They knew exactly how to penetrate our defenses. Spies? Rex demanded. Possibly, Malek admitted, but more likely they have been studying us for decades. The Arcturians, in particular, would have detailed knowledge of our systems from before their supposed extinction. Vex paced the chamber, all 4 of his eyes fixed on the tactical displays. The Empire had never faced a setback like this. Not in living memory. The thought of conceding to the Alliance's demands was repugnant. But Jix's logic was sound. A strategic withdrawal now could prevent a catastrophic defeat. Very well, he finally said. Issue the withdrawal orders for the systems they have listed, but make it clear this is a gesture of imperial magnanimity, not submission to their demands. Krez looked ready to object, but a sharp glance from Vrex silenced him. Simultaneously, Vedars continued, I want our best engineers analyzing every piece of data we have on their technology. I want to know how they built those gateways, how they penetrated our shields, and how they coordinated their attack so effectively. And I want options for neutralizing their advantages. Jex nodded. There is one more thing, High Counselor. The human message mentioned a trial for Admiral Zorax. Our cultural experts suggest this has significant propaganda value for the Alliance species. It demonstrates our vulnerability. Zorax is expendable, Virsek said coldly. His failure at Earth has already diminished his value to the Empire. Let them have their show trial. His mandibles clicked in a QX-Thuray smile. It will keep them distracted while we prepare our response. 1 month later, Neutral Space Station Epsilon, Outer Perseus. The Great Hall of Justice Station Epsilon was packed with representatives from 27 species. Some were familiar to the watching QX-Thari delegation, subjugated races like the Peloran and Zithrak. Others were completely unknown, species from beyond Imperial space that had somehow joined this Terran Galactic Alliance. On the central platform, Admiral Zorax stood in restraints, surrounded by a mixed security team of humans, Arcturians, and other Alliance species. The trial had lasted for 10 standard days, with witnesses from dozens of worlds testifying to atrocities committed under Zorax's command. Now judgment was about to be rendered. In the QX-Thuray observation box, Sub-Commander Lax watched with careful detachment. He had been sent not to intervene. Zorax's fate was sealed, but to gather intelligence, to understand these allies of humanity who had so suddenly upended the galactic balance of power. The tribunal has reached its decision, announced the Chief Justice, a tall avian being from a world Lax didn't recognize. Admiral Zorax of the QX-Thuray Empire, you have been found guilty of crimes against sentient life, including genocide, illegal planetary bombardment of civilian populations, and violations of ancient space laws recognized by all civilized worlds. Zorax stood impassively, his mandibles completely still in the QX-Thuray expression of contempt. The traditional penalty for such crimes is death, the Chief Justice continued. However, this alliance was founded on principles different from those of your empire. We believe in rehabilitation where possible, and containment where necessary. A murmur ran through the assembled delegates. Therefore, you are sentenced to permanent exile on the rehabilitation world of New Arctura. There you will live among the survivors of the worlds you destroyed. You will work to rebuild what your kind sought to erase from the galaxy. And perhaps in time you will come to understand the value of the lives you so carelessly extinguished. Zorax finally reacted, his mandibles clicking furiously. I am a QX-Thuray admiral. You cannot sentence me to live among inferiors. That is precisely your sentence, the Chief Justice replied calmly, to live among those you considered inferior, and to learn they never were. As Zorax was led away, still protesting, Lax noticed Admiral Shepard watching from the Alliance delegation. The human's expression was not triumphant, as Lax had expected, but somber. Their eyes met briefly across the chamber, and Lax felt an uncomfortable sensation, as if the human could see through his diplomatic pretenses to the intelligence-gathering mission beneath. Later, as Lax prepared to board his shuttle back to QX-Thuray space, he was surprised to find Shepard waiting at the docking bay. Sub-Commander, the human greeted him. I thought we should speak directly, without the formalities of the tribunal. Lax's secondary eyes narrowed suspiciously. What could we possibly have to discuss, human? The future, Shepard replied simply. Your empire has complied with our initial demands, withdrawing from the specified systems. The question now is what happens next. That is for the High Council to decide, Lax said carefully. Of course, but you will be the one briefing them on what you have observed here. Your assessment will shape their thinking. Lax's mandibles twitched slightly. The human understood QX-Thuray politics better than expected. And what should I tell them, Admiral Shepard? The truth, Shepard said, that our alliance isn't seeking the destruction of the QX-Thuray. We want stability. Security for our member worlds. An end to imperial expansion, yes, but not the annihilation of your species. Generous, Lax commented dryly, given the apparent advantage your forces hold. It's not generosity, it's pragmatism. Shepard's eyes were intense. A cornered enemy fights hardest. If we tried to dismantle your empire completely, the resulting war would devastate half the galaxy. Billions would die on all sides. Nobody wins in that scenario. Lax studied the human curiously. So you offer What? Coexistence. After centuries of conflict. After centuries of QX-Thari aggression, Shepard corrected. But yes, coexistence is possible. With verified disarmament of planet-killing weapons, with borders that both sides respect, with consequences for violation. The High Council will never accept limitations imposed by former prey species, Lax said, though he wasn't entirely convinced of this himself. The reality of the Alliance's capabilities had shaken many old certainties. Then the High Council needs to evolve, Shepard replied. Just as humanity had to evolve when we discovered we weren't alone in the universe. Adaptation is survival, Sub-Commander. Your ancestors understood that when they fought back from the brink of extinction. The docking bay alert sounded, indicating Lax's shuttle was ready for departure. Think about what you have seen here, Shepard said as Lax turned to go. Not just our military capabilities, but our restraint. We could have executed Zurix, we could have pushed our advantage and attacked QX-Thari core worlds while your fleets were in disarray. We did make sure the High Council understands why. Lax paused at the shuttle entrance. And if they don't, if they choose to fight despite the odds. Shepard's expression hardened. Then the sky will burn again, but this time it won't stop at Earth. 6 months later, Neutral Border Station Gamma 9. The treaty room was sparse by QX-Thari standards, functional rather than ornate, with a simple round table at its center. On one side sat the Alliance delegation, Admiral Shepard, Arcturian Elder Thalos, and representatives from 5 other member species. On the other side, the QX-Thari delegation, led by none other than High Counselor Vrex himself. The non-aggression accord is straightforward, Shepard explained, as holographic text hovered above the table. The QX-Thari Empire recognizes the sovereignty of all Alliance worlds. The Alliance recognizes the current borders of the Empire. Neither side will encroach on the other's territory. A demilitarized zone will be established along the borders. Rex's mandibles clicked softly. And the technology provisions? Both sides agree not to deploy planet-killing weapons of any kind, Elder Thalos said, his crystalline voice resonating in the chamber. Both sides will also maintain their quantum gateway technology exclusively within their recognized territories. No gateways in neutral or contested space. Rhys studied the Arcturian with undisguised disdain. And enforcement. How will violations be addressed? Joint inspection teams, Shepard replied. And immediate military response for confirmed violations. If either side breaks this accord, there are no second chances, no diplomatic wrangling. Just consequences. The room fell silent as Rex considered this. Months of careful negotiation, preceded by limited military engagements that had demonstrated the Alliance's capabilities without triggering full-scale war, had led to this moment. The QX-Thari Empire, for the first time in its long history, was agreeing to limits on its expansion. My advisors tell me this agreement is necessary, Rex finally said, each word seeming to cause him physical pain. That the alternative is a protracted conflict that would weaken the Empire against other potential threats. Your advisors are wise, Shepard said simply. Rex fixed his 4 eyes on Shepard. You know this isn't the end. The Empire has existed for millennia. It has faced setbacks before. This treaty is merely an intermission. Perhaps, Shepard acknowledged, or perhaps it's the beginning of something new. A galaxy where strength doesn't have to mean conquest. Where different species can coexist without domination. How disappointingly idealistic, Rex sneered. You have forced us to this table through superior firepower, not superior ideology. Don't pretend otherwise. The firepower got your attention, Shepard agreed, but it's the ideology that will keep the peace, because deep down, you know your way leads only to endless cycles of violence. Someone is always rising up, always fighting back. The hunters become the hunted, again and again. Vex made a dismissive gesture. Spare me your human philosophizing. Let us complete this distasteful business. The treaty was signed with minimal ceremony. No celebrations, no grand speeches, just the quiet acknowledgement that the galaxy had fundamentally changed. As the delegations prepared to depart, Rex approached Shepard privately. Tell me something, human. This alliance of yours, how did you convince so many different species to follow your leadership? What special quality do humans possess that we QX-Thari lack? Shepard considered the question carefully. We listen, he said finally. When the Arcturians came to us, we didn't see them as inferior or as tools to be used. We saw them as teachers, as partners. Every species in our alliance contributes something unique. We are stronger together because we value our differences more than trying to erase them. Sentiment. Vix dismissed. Strategy. Shepard countered. The most effective one in the galaxy, as it turns out. You conquered. We connected. And here we are. Vex's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. We shall see which approach endures, human. The game is long, and this is but one move. It's not a game when lives are at stake, Shepard replied. That's something else we understand that you don't, yet. As the QX-Thari delegation departed, Philalis joined Shepard at the viewport. He still doesn't comprehend, the Arcturian observed. Even now, he thinks in terms of eventual victory, of outlasting us. He might be right, Shepard admitted. Peace is harder to maintain than war is to wage. This treaty is just the beginning of the real challenge. But a beginning worth fighting for, Thalos said, placing a crystalline hand on Shepard's shoulder. When my escape pod crashed on Earth 50 years ago, I never imagined humans would not only save my life, but lead a movement that would change the galaxy. Shepard smiled ruefully. We had plenty of motivation. Nothing unites a species like a common enemy. And nothing challenges them like peace, Thalos added. Your real test begins now, Admiral. Leading an alliance in wartime is one thing. Leading it in peace will require different skills entirely. One challenge at a time, old friend, Shepard said, watching as the QX-Thari ship disappeared into the darkness of space. First, we make sure they respect our borders. Then we figure out how to live with them as neighbors rather than enemies. And if they don't respect the treaty, Shepard's expression hardened. Then we remind them why they signed it in the first place. On Earth, reconstruction continued at a remarkable pace. The combined technologies of the Alliance had transformed devastated cities into marvels of architecture and engineering. Where QX-Thari bombardment had left craters, gleaming structures now rose, incorporating design elements from a dozen worlds. In what had once been Geneva, now rebuilt as Unity City, General Vega stood with Jake Shepard on the balcony of the new Alliance headquarters. Below them stretched a plaza filled with representatives from every member species, gathered to commemorate the first anniversary of the Battle of Earth. They are calling it Victory Day, Vega observed. Though if you ask me, the real victory was signing that treaty. Both were necessary, Jake replied. One showed we could fight, the other showed we could think beyond fighting. And Zorax? How's our favorite war criminal enjoying retirement? Jake's mouth quirked in a half-smile. According to the latest reports from New Arctura, he's still refusing to participate in community activities. Spends most of his time in isolation. But the psychologists say that's progress. Believe it or not, 6 months ago he was still trying to fashion weapons out of farming tools. Some minds can't be changed, Vega sighed. Maybe not his. But we didn't create the rehabilitation program for Zorax. We did it for ourselves, to show that we are better than our enemies, that we can rise above the cycle of vengeance. Vega nodded toward the stars, just becoming visible as dusk fell. And what about out there? Our long-range scouts report the QX-Thari are rebuilding their fleets, improving their technologies. They are respecting the treaty borders, but they are preparing for something. So are we, Jake pointed out. Peace doesn't mean naivety. We maintain our strength, our vigilance, but we also extend the hand of cooperation where possible. You really believe they can change? After millennia of conquest, Jake considered this. I believe they can adapt. It's what intelligent species do. The question is whether they will adapt by finding new ways to fight us or by discovering the benefits of cooperation. And if it's the former, then, Jake said quietly, the sky will burn again. But this time we won't be fighting alone, and we won't be fighting from a position of weakness. Below them, the commemoration ceremony began, with representatives from each Alliance world placing memorial tokens in a central flame. Earth's token, a simple metal sphere containing soil from every continent, was placed by a young woman whose family had been killed in the QX-Thari attack. The galaxy's watching us, Vega noted. Not just the QX-Thari, but unaligned worlds, civilizations that have stayed neutral or hidden, waiting to see what happens next. Let them watch, Jake said. Let them see what's possible when different species unite instead of conquer. When we build instead of destroy. As darkness fell completely, the memorial flame illuminated the faces of the gathered beings human, Arcturian, Philoran, Sithrak, and dozens more. Each different, each unique, yet all part of something greater than themselves. In his cell on New Arctura, Zorax watched the broadcast with contempt that gradually gave way to confusion. The display of unity among species the QX-Thari had always considered prey was unsettling. It challenged assumptions so fundamental to his worldview that he could barely process the implications. And on the QX-Thari homeworld, High Counselor Vrex studied intelligence reports showing the continued growth of the Alliance. New worlds joining, new technologies being shared, new defenses being constructed. The humans had begun something unprecedented, something that defied traditional QX-Thari strategy. For the first time in his long career, Rex felt something alien to his nature. Doubt, not about the Empire's strength, but about its path. The Alliance had forced the QX-Thari to consider alternatives to endless conquest. Whether those alternatives would be embraced or rejected remained to be seen. But one thing was certain: the galaxy had changed irrevocably. The hunter had become the hunted, and then something else entirely. Something new was emerging from the ashes of old conflicts, born in fire when the sky burned over Earth. A fire that, like the memorial flame on Unity Plaza, could either consume or illuminate. The choice, as Admiral Shepard had said, belonged to everyone now.